from LearnBright. I believe Roland as well is going to be doing a presentation. Oli as well is going to be presenting. So the idea is if you have something that you would like to share and see, let us know. We're going to start with Lynn Sedgers from Lucid Web.
Thank you. Okay. It's okay. Sure. Yeah. So my name is Leen. Okay. That's better. So my name is Leen, and I'm co-founder of Lucid Web together with Fabien. So our tagline is democratizing VR discovery. So a lot of people might know Lucid Web from the research that we have done. So since a year, we're collaborating with the VR Fund, and we're researching the most important VR and AR startups in Europe. So this is the second version that was published in July. There are almost 500 companies that we've researched, and out of them, almost 300 are visible in the map, and they're actually divided into tags according to HMD, to 3D tools, for example, or then the top layer are the applications. We also do a lot of custom development with clients that you see on the left. So for the WebVR specific offering, we're focusing on solving a couple of problems, and they might look quite familiar. So we hope to, with our solution, to facilitate access to VR. In general, have more content available. We want to resolve the device compatibility questions people have when they access VR. And in general, we hope to increase the stickiness of the medium. To our clients, we always show this discovery journey. So when you're, for example, interested in premium New York Times VR content, you have to go through several steps to be able to view the content in the magic window mode. I don't have to explain the magic window, I guess, but it's 7 steps. And in the end, when the viewer finally arrives in the magic window mode, it's very unclear what they can do with the content. The New York Times indicates that it's cardboard content, but yeah, a lot of people could ask themselves the questions, Gear VR, Daydream, can I use this? So a lot of questions, and that's basically what we try to do with our solutions, is try to reduce the awkwardness, reduce the number of questions people have when they have premium VR content in front of them. So yesterday, Fabien already introduced the community player that we published on GitHub. So the basics of the community player is that we reduce the number of steps. So here you see that from the mobile browser to the magic window, with our player, you go into the magic window in 1 step. And then we add value by providing a navigation screen or a transition screen that clearly shows the end user what they can do with the content. So in this case, it's a Daydream compatible phone. So they will have a navigation screen showing them that they can use a Daydream. So 1 step to the magic window, and then 1 step to go into the VR mode. This is a screenshot of the navigation screen. And the same goes for the Oculus and the HTC Vive. So if you're on a desktop browser, you can easily go into the VR mode. So again, the whole point is to reduce the questions people have. This is how the player looks like. The point is, of course, that we offer our clients ways to adapt the interface, so the color of the control buttons, the buttons that you see in 2D and 3D will be different, so the client can define what they show. The community player is our first step into that offering. So it's, like I said, it's available on GitHub. The singular 360 non-interactive video that is available on via the community player is a first step, but basically what we're focusing on is offering our clients tools to really package several non-interactive 360 videos. So for the Irish broadcaster, we developed this prototype. So they had a page on their site where they had 360 content. You can go to the page today. It's completely not clear it's 360 content or it's immersive. It's, the content is offered with YouTube players. So basically, if you want to discover one piece after the other, you have to put up the headset, put the headset down, activate the player again. So we propose them to rebuild everything in WebVR, where the navigation is quite simple, quite intuitive. And we can actually also easily change the background. So the background is a 360 video of an Irish landscape. But with the same exercise, we can easily shift that video. So basically what we're doing is making non-interactive 360 interactive via a WebVR application. We can also propose a client to have some description pages in between, so they don't necessarily immediately jump into the experience without knowing what the content is about. With one experience, they are available cross-platform. A lot of clients come back with requirements to make the 360 content, of course, interactive. So we also offer tools to build in visible or hidden hotspots with video. So today we've worked with the WRT, which is a Flemish broadcaster. We worked with RTE, still fine-tuning that prototype. But we just also launched an interactive WebVR experience for a hospital. So basically to train nurses and doctors how to use material in a hospital room where actually a patient is being operated. So that's it. We can show you the three demos later, also the community player. But if you have questions, Fabien is there, and I'm here as well for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Closer to the mic. Can everyone hear me? Okay, from here? Yeah. Excellent. Okay. My name is Danny Stefanik. I'm the CEO of LearnBright, and me and my team have been doing VR for more than 20 years. Started the Virtual Reality Association in '94, so I've been doing this for a little bit of time. But what I want to show you today, and I've got a few gifts for you all as well, is our platform that uses WebVR. We've been building out for 3 years, but built on the back of a number of other businesses that we've acquired and content that we have. Now, the first thing is most of you, if you were in my LinkedIn connections or on the list of attendees, would have got an email inviting you to a space. And this space is an experimental space for this actual event, and people have been attending virtually in this space, watching the live stream and participating. Now, you can use this on mobile, tablet, PC, or any of the VR headsets, including Windows Mixed Reality, Daydream, whatever you happen to have. It's compatible across all. You'll see that my CTO, Juan, is in a sumo wrestling suit next to us, and we support chat, explojis we call them, which should come up there, we go, and WebRTC for conferencing. These screens at the back here can share screens or just use video or webcam. Works with the Gear VR with the external camera as well, so you can walk around and show people what's in the room. All sorts of mashups are possible with it. The conferencing, you can dial in even from a phone. It really does everything that WebEx or those sorts of platforms can do. It even, well, there's our CTO there, he's in the room behind us. But anyone can join in and do that. Most of the people here were invited as editors. So this is kind of a wiki space. You can change it, you can post URLs, and if you put a URL in the chat, you can pin it to a wall, move objects around really easily. So it's very, very easy to use. The whole idea was to build this for typical e-learning authors, people that make slideshows and quizzes as training. That's the audience that we want to be able to create environments. And in fact, we have a whole bot system as well, so you can talk to bots. We have text-to-speech in 68 different languages and tools to build the interactions with bots. There's somebody screen sharing as well, Christian, who's our wonder of everything. Oh, I don't want to whisper to him. He's got some sort of weird robot body going on with trendy lipstick and everything. We've got 8 quadrillion style choices for avatars. So we built a platform called Universal Avatars. So you can take a character from one experience to another. And we've built this as a kind of third-party app development platform. It's super optimized, so that'll run on anything from IE11 to iOS, iPhone 4 running WebGL as well. Super, super optimized. We can have 200 avatars in the same scene, all animating and chatting, which is a pretty big achievement. So a level of detail and everything else in there. You can either use pre-existing animations that we have a bunch of. Oh, and we also support 360 backgrounds and 360 video for interactions as well. These can be self-paced experiences with bots or multi-user experiences, up to you. And you can pop them into a learning management system or just as links. We also have a bunch of different places that you can visit, templates. This is an auditorium, and these are part of what's called a campus. So you can actually have a much bigger experience made of many, many rooms, and you can take people through and give them lots of different experiences. And this is probably one of the more interesting things about the business is we have lots of clients, they have campuses, but they're in corporations. So we're probably the most profitable but least public VR company because all of this is behind corporate firewalls. Our 3D services run on the web, and their content is in their intranet, and only at browser runtime do they combine, which solves all of the security and data privacy issues as well. So that's a bit of what we do, but what I wanted to share with you as well, this is my private office. It's an office space. As you can see a Minecraft thing here, and you can drop anything in. In fact, I've even linked this up to Amazon Chime for doing calls, so you can link to Skype for Business, Adobe Connect, Amazon Chime, and actually have conference calls. And possibly, our CTO might be in here somewhere. Well, we have lip sync as well for the bots, and that'll work with Chime, Skype, Adobe Connect. So it picks up on the mic and you have that working. Universal Avatars also, depending on the platform you're using it and the devices, will give you just a head and hands, or a head, torso and arms and hands, or a full avatar body as well. So it's just an API call based on how it's being used. So for instance, if we're using it in AR, you just have the head and the hands moving around the room. And the little gift I was talking about is this conferencing platform. We're releasing for free, and that's called Big Blue Room. And so we haven't actually launched it publicly yet, but so you guys are all able to get to it first. You can sign up just with your name and an email address. You'll get your own private office. You are the owner of it, and you'll have a little crown above your head, and you can change the environment, put in a different 360 background, add furniture, take things away. We support objects from SketchUp, Sketchfab, FBX files, OBJ files, GLB, GLTF. You can just drop them in. So it's really easy to use. That's free. You can conference with people. You just add them, invite them to your office. It's private, and have your meetings in there. So I invite you to check out the system, play around with it, get your own avatar, and if anyone wants to talk about how to integrate these things into other platforms, we're really keen to explore that. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope you really enjoy it. Who's next? Who's next? The grab. Roland? Roland should be demoing next. He's talking about avatar. Here he is. This ties really well into universal avatars because we need to know more about people and how they're represented. So this should be very, very interesting. Thank you.
That's good. I didn't know that it was my turn yet. Oh, thank you. It's okay. Okay, let me...
Do you need the adapter?
Yes. No, I just have this. Okay. So hello everyone. I'm going to talk about Graver, my API and platform for globally recognizable avatars for VR. I want to talk about what Graver actually is, because when I say Graver, a lot of people think I'm building avatars, but it's not actually that. That's what we have platforms like Universal Avatars for. So the big goals of Graver are to promote web-based VR as the future for content distribution, not app distribution channels, but the big, wide open and free web. We want to focus on mobile VR and featuring the smartphone in your pocket that you actually bring with you everywhere you go. And when I say mobile VR, it's not actually inherently on the run, on the go. There's a study that says that BBDO and AOL made that study a little while back, where they said that 65% of people use their mobile phone at home on their sofa. So that's interesting to know. So it's actually something to consider when you design for mobile VR. In order to understand where the person is at any given point, we want to give them a personalized profile that makes the VR experience more comfortable to related to the location where they are and the position and the freedom of motion and range. And then we want to also create a way to accurately measure the body and of the actual human that is in VR. And we can start with just the user height and then going into much deeper things like hand size, arm length, and just in order to get a more embodiment and more accurate representation of the physicality of the human and translate that into the virtual space in order to make that of less of a misrepresentation, a more comfortable environment where you feel that you are actually in that space. And last but not least, we want to also create a market that is competitive for third-party VR headsets and makers of input devices. We want to unify that level, and you don't want to just focus on the big players, just like the standalone headsets, the HTC Vives, 6DoF devices, or even the catered mobile VR ecosystems like Google Daydream or Gear VR. We want to actually empower companies like Merge VR or the Zeiss VR1 or Homido and all the others that spend a lot of time and effort on building VR headsets where you put in your phone. Give them a platform where you can bring in your device and compete on the same level as the big players. When I present WebVR in general to clients, I always bring that analogy. Like WebVR on mobile right now feels like you're buying a fancy car, but you're not able to actually adjust the driver's seat. And since humans are not chairs, an ergonomic measurement of a human doesn't really do it right, and we just need to bring another level of enhancement and to bring VR to bring another level of comfort to a use of VR. This is a demo where I pull in my actual Graver information, my user height, which is in this case 1.7 meters. I'm a little taller, but in that example, I'm pulling a person's user height in, which is 1.7 meters, which means the user height eye level to the floor, which is the 1.6 standard. That is the red person, and I'm taller than that person. My user height eye level to floor is 1.65, and I also bring in here the average United States citizen. Female is 1.625 meters, and her eye level is 1.5 meters. So you can see, and the male next to it, so that the average is okay, but when it goes down to using VR environments for long term, very subtle inaccuracies, like having hands that are slightly too small, just the frustration of not reaching that shelf level with your arm. All these kind of things bring in a level of subliminal stress, which actually results in losing the user, giving the user some kind of uncomfortable feeling. So in order to get more accurate in our measurements, even though that a lot of details play a role with lens distortion and all that kind of stuff, but the more accurate we are with the representation of the embodiment of the user, the better we can cater to an environment that makes sense. So Grabber tries to solve those issues with the four big fragmentations, the four big challenges that we have with mobile VR and WebVR. One is the VR headset, then we have the smartphone, then we have the input controls, and then we have the human itself. Just quickly going through those charts because I only have so much time, but the thing is that in these charts we see that mobile VR headsets are always the majority of headsets are being sold. Building VR environments for mobile in mind is always a dedicated standalone, and all-in-one headsets are just a tiny fraction, and really we have to focus around the mobile phone of being the consumer device for VR. Speaking of third-party vendors, we have here a tiny selection of the hundreds of VR headsets and devices, and just to explain why is this such a challenge is pulling out two. Lenses are not unified. Lens distortion, everyone has their own kind of technology, and there's some really good stuff going on Kickstarter, like the Virality Sky over there that has like 100-degree field of vision and has like curved lenses that block peripheral vision to really focus the eye and the light of the screen directly and project it. I have an example here where you can test it out later. But it shows that there's no kind of unifying factor, and we have the Google VR services with the QR codes, but that is inherently based, catering to native apps right now, and also can only be adjusted, and I have to talk to the Google people a little bit longer for that, but figure out how to get this data out. But the idea is that it's actually, we don't get this as a JavaScript API call, this information, which should be like an open information pool, but they collected for the last 3 years a lot of headsets. Everybody put their headset QR code into the system, and it is a vast, it's a powerful library which would help us understand how the screen gets distorted, and then therefore we can understand proportions and our proportion in that virtual space better. So we, like I'm saying, we have a lot of high quality devices. It's not just the cardboard. When you say cardboard, everyone thinks about this flimsy cardboard thing, but it's actually dedicated devices which are really nice, and China has an entire city of VR stuff going on, so there's tons of stuff coming from there too. There's no standardization for lens curving, and there is also no clear amount of input controls. A lot of VR headsets have a trigger button that touches the screen. Some need you to touch actually the screen with your finger, and Merge VR, for an example, has two buttons, left and right. So that would be an interesting thing that you want to bring in as a progressive enhanced experience. So you have two buttons. I want to be able to use those, and then. So yeah, so the trend that goes towards those big players that put a lot of money into figuring out the synergy between phone and VR headset, they steal a little bit the show of the third-party vendors, and I want to empower those. So that's one of the goals. Exactly. Now the next part is the smartphone, and I know I don't have much time, but just in general, we have different screen resolution, different density and screen proportions. So we have to think about those different kind of GPU and support of browsers and all this stuff. That also is part of understanding the economy of what you're using in order to cater to an accurate representation of VR in the ecosystem. So hardware, and also what kind of internet connection you might have. And then input, I talked about that 2 days ago, about the accessibility, all the different kind of Bluetooth enhanced inputs and different kind of remotes. There needs to be a way to be able to store them and map them correctly, so you can actually switch between those controls depending if they're available to you or not. That's the component that can help you with doing that for A-frame. I'm quickly going through this. We're going from the baseline of gaze, and then we progressively enhance to like the button controls and switches. Then understanding user interfaces in VR, obviously. You can't assume that everyone has 360-degree range of vision at any time. Just assume that you're sitting in an airplane, then you would have basically 60 or 80 degrees range of motion of your head before you stab your neighbor with your headset. But so like we have to understand what kind of graphical user interface I have to design that gives people a chance to actually navigate in restricted areas, and how do you kind of adjust that based on your decision. I want to be able to navigate an interface in a certain range that is comfortable and doesn't give me some cramps in my neck. Then the human factor, which I already touched on with, and here's a little chart that talks about the critical UX in VR experiences. One is the input controls. Obviously, you want to have the controls that you're comfortable with. Then you have the user, you need to have user preferences. You say, oh, I want the font size to be a certain size because of my screen resolution. I want it to be readable because I need more contrast. And then the environment where I'm in. Am I sitting on the sofa? Am I laying in bed? Am I in an airplane? So all these factors and all the screen boxes are where actually Grabber tries to impact and improve that experiences. And you see that you have like a lot of these things are solved in the Vive and the fixed 6DoF environments, but a lot of variables are unclear based on the inherent device agnostic web platforms. Yeah. So just to wrap up, this is Grabber. You can sign up for it, and this is just a little screenshot of my API. This is going to be shared anyway, so you can go and check out all this info, all the inputs. This is very quickly just the embodiment, me scanned, and then my measurements in VR, so I can kind of tailor something to myself. Top left is user interface adjustment of graphical user interface ranges, and then safe spaces for VR. For a social VR, I want to have a zone where no one can approach me. That kind of thing is like a factor. And use cases here for fashion, like you can use the amount of measurements to actually shop for shoes that fit you, and you don't have to return them every single time because you have accurate measurements or clothes. And yeah, interfaces. Exactly. Thank you.
I think it's good that the last day this cable is dying. No? Is it my side or is it your side? Yeah. Slightly be gentle. You have a VGA?
Yeah. Really? Who uses VGA?
Let's use a VGA. Oh. We need just to switch sources. Yes. So, hi everybody. Do not be afraid, the morning is almost finished, and what we are going to do next, I think, is demos. So in terms of demos, there's very little game we worked on with Diego and Fabien for the Mozilla Festival, and it's WebVR Defender, a tower defense game. So I don't know if you know what tower defense is. Basically, that's like there's enemies going through a way, and you put towers along the way to shoot at them. And what we wanted to do is a game where whatever device you have a different kind of gameplay. So basically on this game, is that we are going to set up upstairs the second floor, so the one you see, there. We are going to set up a Vive. If you have a desktop, bring it. We are going to set up some Gear VR, thanks to Diego, if you can lend me a few of those, and make people play together in the same game using different devices to show progressive enhancements through a game. So that's a very small game, it's a few minutes, but like if you would like to test it, I'd be happy to show it to you. Second things, so that's why I'm asking you to bring your laptop, because my laptop will be used for trying Sumerian. So I happen to have a key for Sumerian, Amazon Sumerian, thanks to Preston, which reached out to me on Twitter. So if anybody wants to try it out, to see a little what the fuzz is about, I will put my computer at your disposal to try things. Same place, so it will be second floor as well. So you'll need to do some sports this morning. I know it's the third day, but like you need to. So yeah, that's basically it. So if you want to do one of those two things, come join us at the second floor. Thanks. Non mais tu peux, genre toi ça va marcher. HDMI ou HDMI, ça va marcher. Non, le mec a passé tout son temps sur sa démo pour pas que ça puisse marcher. Il faut... Ça a marché pour tous les autres. Non, non, ça, juste avant ça marchait pas. Ça a marché pour tous les autres. Non. Ton câble est malade. You don't have another one? They have. We have. While you're setting up, I wanted to say something on Diego and Salva as well. Last year in San Jose, we took a 360 picture. It would be good to be able to take a 360 picture with everybody before everybody's leaving. Yes. So we have to do that before everybody goes back to...
In the demo time, before the demo time, we could just...
Yeah, just at the end of this, we can take a picture. Yes. It would be very cool.
So let me see how I do this. Okay, bon. Hello, I'm Fabien. I work on Lucid Web, and sometimes I should also do weirder stuff. So, as you understood before, with Roland, what your size is, what your perception of your size is matters, and it's the different for his, my size, yours. And one of the some of the fundamental concept is that VR transform who you are, and that if you do experiences, is to be somebody else, do something else. The thing is, that's great. So if you start to have your little experience in a world you might recognize, you do it in VR, because, wow, that's going to be difficult. No, I need to, let's try, oh my.
Yeah, but that's, sorry. That's Mac, thank you, Mac.
Okay, yes. Haha, hello, I'm Fabien. Second second time. So the idea is that you spend a lot of time in VR. That's great, and it changes you. But then if you go back, when you go back to reality, maybe if you spend 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. If you start to spend 5 hours, maybe the whole day, then you need to think a bit about what happened and then come back gently to reality, let's say. So let's do that again. You explore your world, and the world changes you. So a way to really make it obvious is, as you might recognize from this environment that's still loading, I might be Alice, and I might have to eat or drink, so I do my little cupcake to grow. Yeah, if it's a bit clunky, it's because that was done today and yesterday. So my little experience is I just collect the apples, and then I'll shrink back to my normal size. The little special part about it is that the time I shrink back is proportional to the time I spent in VR. So the longer I spend in VR, the slower I'll shrink back. Again, that's just an example. This food for thought. It's not saying that's the one parameter, but that's an obvious one that you can relate to. So that your transition basically to the decompression chamber from your time in VR to your time to go out of VR. So that's it. Okay. Hello, I'm Fabian. I have another one. That was planned. I'm not hijacking the mic, just if you're wondering. Again, that was done based on discussion with all of you guys and with a bit of prior ideas, but it was done during those 2 days, so if it's half working, you know why. So we discussed about a lot of in-VR editing, and I think because we want to shorten the feedback loop, we don't want to just like edit in VR, see the preview, try it. We want to directly edit in VR, and also because in order to bring back newcomers, including non-developers, there should be basically only coding if you want to. If you don't want to code, then you shouldn't have to. So this little demo is trying to do just that. Meaning that, so that's the A-frame stack where you have your all the different, so I'm inspecting directly the framework. There is nothing hard-coded. I have the component and the entity. If I look at an entity, I'll stack it. It will appear. And then if I look at a component that can be stacked on it, then it will stack it under because it's compatible. And then it will generate the scene based on that. Again, it's not hard-coded, it's just inspecting the existing framework. I'm using here just, what's the name, the cursor, but you can imagine instead of gazing at it, I grab it, stack them together, and then I check if the syntax is correct, then they stack. If they don't stack. That's it. And you can bring in VR assets also using Google Poly, using a little keyboard, so a little plugin to not have just cubes and spheres. That's it. Thank you.
Does it still work?
I hope so.
Yes, you are going to be the guinea pig. So what we did yesterday in the background with Madlena and Malvin, we tried to take, that T-Rex frame in Google Chrome when you have no internet. So we tried to build a VR version of it. And let me show you what it currently looks like. It's still an early prototype. So you can now see the T-Rex going, and it can jump. We still need to add some features like scores. And we had a really hard time figuring out how to make this playable in the VR version. So one nice feature that we added with the, no, that's okay. Now you just added some artistic effect to the pictures. Very nice. No, it doesn't matter. I think you understand the concept. So one challenge that we had is with the keyboard, I can just jump using the, doesn't matter. I can jump using the space bar. And with the VR, I can probably use the controller to jump.
but we decided to try something more innovative. So, Monica, can you demonstrate us what it looks like when you want the T-Rex to jump? So this is the gameplay. Madlena, can you take a... And now it jumps in VR.
You can't see it, but...
We can imagine it.
So it's great because it's 2-in-1, young fun and exercise.
I will try. Yes, oh, like that? I will just simulate it because it's not synchronized. So jump. Do you still see the T-Rex or did it go to...
I see the T-Rex.
Oh no, I asked the audience.
And also it's a lot of fun. So if anybody wants
Yeah,
to
so
try
that's it. I just posted the link to the source code on Twitter with the hashtag and on Slack, so you can check it out. And pull requests are welcome. Thank you.
Hello guys, I'm Nikolai from the LensVR team, and I don't have a presentation as the other guys, but my demo is set up on the HTC Vive at the moment. It's about the VR website prototype. Feel free to come and test it and also give me some feedback.
We got another cable, all right?
Sorry, just a couple of words because before starting. Now we are going to do the demos at the same time we have the coffee break, and it will last until 12 or 12:15. We will call you as usual. I will interrupting you all the time. Sorry. And then we will have the showcase of different demos over the rooms and the HTC Vive with, for instance, all its experiences there, and then you will try all these experiments we did in WebVR. Okay. This is a last addition to the agenda, but I think it will be very funny. So please, Daniel, if you want, thank you.
If we have 2 seconds, we set it up. Okay. Yeah, we'll just editory. Okay, live. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, we'll do it like this.
That's strange. This cable.
there's a cable? Okay. Otherwise, you could demo on my computer, you know, as you did yesterday.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks. Er is nu een nieuwe projector. Je hoort me nog steeds, toch? Okay. Ja. Geeft niks. Een paar seconden.
Okay, so while we're having these technical issues, can we take the 360 picture now so we can save time on that one? Yes?
Okay. Here?
Let's do it at the stairs. So can we quickly move to the stairs?
He has a meeting in 2 minutes. 10 minutes.
But we need the projector,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so.
Wat zeg je? Ja, maar goed, we zijn zo klaar.
No conocía, o sea, sabía quién eras tú, ¿no? Pero dije, va.
Oh ja, there you go. Ik zie je op het scherm. Je hoort me nog steeds, hè? Kan je even praten?
Testing 1, 2, 3, horen jullie mij? Mooi.
De foto wordt gemaakt en dan... Ze staan daar. Twee mutsen die er nog even snel op willen. Ja, we gaan beginnen. Iedereen komt nu terug.
Kan je misschien de laptop ook draaien dat ik kan meekijken? Of,
Maar ja, dan sta ik een beetje raar, maar goed. I'm ready when you're ready. I want to show you a cool thing we always use for our workshops to introduce people to WebVR and to show them how easy it is to make WebVR with A-Frame. Over there, there's Ruben. Ruben, this is everyone. Ruben created this, so I wanted to be here. So the small title is You always wanted to be in the center of a galaxy far, far away. I'm Daniel, currently working together with Marco on the Dutch WebXR community. I have my own web company, and well, Ruben is from the Reality Lab, also a VR enthusiast. Does also workshops, etc. Well, without further ado, let's go. Ruben, can you maybe shortly explain what we're going to do?
Yeah, of course. First off, hello everyone. Pity that I couldn't be there. What I've basically built is a simple editor that streams the code that I've written to the devices to people who are connected. I basically built this to easily demonstrate how easy it is to build WebVR during a talk. The implementation that you will see in a minute was written using Firebase, although in the meantime I've already refactored it to a Node application. For the talk that I gave at Frontiers, I needed some additional customization that Firebase wasn't able to really give to me. So what it basically does is you can edit code in the browser, and the moment you hit save, the code is sent to all the devices to people who go to a certain link that Daniel will give in a minute. What else can I say about it? It's basically just, to be honest, like I said, it's a really easy feature to showcase what VR can do, especially because developers can instantly see the results. I'm currently busy cleaning up the code, and I'm hoping to deliver it as a standard component by the end of the year. And there's little else I can say about it at the moment. Daniel?
Which editor do you use?
I'm currently using the ACE editor, which is an open source editor you can use in your browser, which I'm specifically using because I could easily implement it into a Reveal.js presentation.
Well, if you go to the URL or scan the QR code, and when everybody's ready, and get your phone, of course, or tablet, or whatever. And if you see a blank screen, it's okay. So I'll switch screens right now. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, okay. I can. Okay, well, there's Ruben again. Below there's the what you'll so you can see what I will do. And well, we made some shortcuts. Or Ruben made some shortcuts to do it fast, but you also can type your code. So what we're seeing right now is blank, nothing. So, but we were saying like we're going to be in a universe. So as you see it right now, it's changed. In a universe, we always want to have a planet, but this is a bit boring, of course. So what we'll do is give it a texture. Okay, well, this is basically, and then we can put some extra code in it. I'll just remove this one, copy paste some code I already written. And right now, you see a galaxy far, far away. The green one is Javin 4, the Rebel base. And of course, we have to attack the Death Star. So this is basically how we do our demos, and the reaction you give is the same we have everywhere, like, oh, wow. Thank you very much. Ruben, dankjewel. Well, trouwens, ADSL and fiber, would you say? It's ADSL. We didn't crash the network with each other, even with Skyping. So, kudos.
So now we have open free time until 12:15. We're going to be making an announcement later. The idea now is to go and enjoy some demos. And maybe we might be able to take another 360 picture, probably with more time and, do my hair and everything. So yeah, in the meantime, let's enjoy some demos, and then we're back around 12 for the conclusions. And there are homemade amazing brownies.